What's up, everybody? I am Jesse, or GameOverJesse as all of you may know me, and we are all here with RMFH and Avrith to discuss all of the recent Pokemon for Switch rumors, news, leaks, everything that's been going on. And we have we're going to list 5 to 10 different features that comes from these leaks and rumors that we think or would like to be in the game. So, RMFH, for those who don't know who you are, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm RMFH. I have a channel, RMFH Gaming. I make a lot of Zelda content. It's recently slowed down due to no new talk about any new Zelda games. So
yeah, until E3.
I'm trying to branch out and everything right now, so the channel's slow moving. But most people know who I am that have watched Jesse's channel before, so I don't feel the need to go on.
Alright, and what about you, Avrith? Where may people know you?
Well, people who know you mostly know me from the Discord as King Avrith. If you want to find out any more about me, check out the Discord. I'm the resident otaku and, well, also the most elite Pokemon gamer. Joking around. But I technically do have all the Pokemon, so I am under the master.
Alright, and as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be discussing our top 5 to 10 features that we want in the game. And to start off, we actually have a news story here that may be a little bit more confirmation to these actually existing, because there were trademarks registered by the Pokemon Company, or Game Freak. And the interesting thing about this is, as I'm sure a lot of you already know, when Pokemon Sun and Moon were first leaked, it was leaked in a similar fashion to these games, Let's Go Evee and Let's Go Pikachu, to where they were leaked, no one really believed them because Nintendo had a pattern of using colors and stuff, and this was one of the first times that they went away from using traditional naming schemes with Sun and Moon. So a few days after the leak, there were official trademarks filed, and then the games were officially announced a couple of months later. And it's a similar situation happening now, to where everyone is getting all of these leaks and rumors about the names, and then the Pokemon Company actually trademarks the names Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Evee, which also lines up with a leaked screenshot that came out several months ago that a lot of people thought were fake, which featured your character with an Evee behind him or in front of him on top of a Lapras, like surfing on the water. And it lines up because if this is supposed to be the remakes of Yellow, as the rumors suggest, and it has your Pokemon following behind you, one of the games is named Evee, this lines up perfectly, because with the Evee following behind you, it literally, the screenshot captures what the rumors are saying now, and it goes along with the trademarks. So, to start from here, what do you guys think about this? Starting with you, RMFH. Rick.
Give me a second. Go ahead, Avrith.
Alright.
Well, from the little bit we know on the leaks, when you mentioned the Lapras, that people were, it was stated that the Alolan ride Pokemon are kind of a thing. I do like the idea of this is actual red and blue, as we know them in the Pokemon anime as Ash and Gary.
Mm-hmm.
Gary getting the, in yellow version, the Evee, Ash getting the, well, Pikachu. Everyone knows Pikachu.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely interested in the whole prospects of the idea of you getting to play the rival this time.
Yeah.
Does that mean that there's going to be other story? That's my huge question right now. Does this mean I get to be the grandson?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing here is, I mentioned I seen this earlier on Twitter, but there was someone joking around that if you play, or if you pick your character and then you pick Pikachu for your starter, you're essentially just getting a choice of one evolution. But if you pick Evee as your starter, then you get like 8 more evolutions to choose from. and possibly even more if Nintendo decides to add in a few extra Eevee evolutions for this generation, since it is like, you know, the game's named after Evee, so it would make sense for them to give some like high evolution, like whatever would be next, or like some, if there is an element or a certain type that Evee hasn't gotten yet, then have him get that. Like, I don't know if there's a ghost Evee, or like even a dragon Evee, as weird as that would be, just like an Evee with wings.
There is the rumor of the normal type Evee, which Evee evolving with a level to a normal Pokemon, which would just be a bigger Evee, I guess.
Wait, I thought there was already one like that.
Well, that Evee is the normal type.
No, so no. There was a normal evolution.
No, not yet. There's a fairy evolution with
maybe
Sylveon.
It was just artwork that I seen.
Yeah, and they added that, what, in Gen 7?
6.
6? Yes.
If you count Alola as Gen 7, I'm not exactly certain. Yeah. There's new Pokemon, so I...
Oh yeah, I must have just seen like fan artwork.
Let's see. Jolteon, Vaporeon, Flareon, Umbreon, Espeon, Psychic Dark, Glaceon, Leafeon, Ice, Grass, Sylveon. Yeah, that's fairy type.
That's all of them.
Yeah, so with one of the big rumors is that it will have a lot of back and forth connectivity to the new Pokemon Go, which kind of makes sense. Everyone downloaded Pokemon Go. You have all of the Pokemon that you caught with Pokemon Go. So the rumor just states that you're going to have some sort of connectivity. It doesn't say exactly what it is. Avrith earlier, we were talking about this on a voice call, and he mentioned that he had some trouble with this because I guess he was looking at it from a different perspective than I was. I don't. I'll explain how I was thinking it, and then Avrith can go in and explain his. So this is one of the things that we was on this list, is the things that we want is this rumor coming true that it will connect to Pokemon Go. And the way that I see this is the most simplest thing is if you spend all your time catching these Pokemon in Pokemon Go, you're walking around, you have more of a connection to that than you do with most Pokemon games because you're actually going out, playing it, like you're getting exercise, you're hanging out with a bunch of friends, to where normally if you're playing Pokemon then you were just like on the school bus as a kid playing it on the original Game Boy or Game Boy Color. So especially for the adults that are getting back into Pokemon, they might have more of a connection to the Pokemon that they caught in Pokemon Go than the Pokemon that you catch, you know, just playing the game on Switch. So it would kind of make you OP if you could just directly transfer all of your Pokemon from Pokemon Go to Pokemon on the Switch. But if there were a certain point in the game, like after you get a certain amount of badges, or maybe even after you become the Pokemon champion, so pretty much you have the game beat, or most of the game beat, you unlock an ability or something that lets you finally transfer your Pokemon to your Switch. That way you can take these Pokemon that you have in Pokemon Go and go on real Pokemon battles with other people. Not the weird version of a Pokemon battle that's in Pokemon Go, but an actual Pokemon battle, and then maybe you can transfer it back to your Pokemon Go account. Another way that I was thinking is once you sign up for Pokemon Go, one of the first things that it asks you is which team do you want to be on. Do you guys remember the names of the 3 teams?
Valor, Instinct,
Mystic.
Yes.
There we go.
So the second thing, this is like, again, I guess it counts as number 2, but it's still connectivity with Pokemon Go, is in the game. Once you connect to that, once you connect the Switch to the app on your phone, then it automatically puts you in whatever team that you chose. So maybe there's a building in some city, in some area, that you can only have access to if you are a part of that team. And it doesn't give you anything that would be, again, overpowered or whatever, but maybe it has like Ultra Balls or special items, special weapon, or not weapons, you don't really use weapons in the game, but like, yeah, just special items like rare Pokeballs or rare items for really cheap. But it's only certain rare items, where if you would have picked Mystic instead of Valor, right? I get it right? Okay, so if you pick Mystic instead of Valor, then maybe it has certain items that are rare that the other places don't have. So depending on which team you have, you get these different rewards, basically. And then maybe that'll encourage you on the next playthrough to pick a different team. Instead of Team Mystic, you pick Team Valor or whatever. And yeah, it kind of rewards you depending on what you do. So those are my two things. So you already had your list, Avrith. So what would be number 3 on this that you would want? And then we'll go to you, Rick.
Okay.
Well, because what you were mentioning, I want to take a point off that, actually. Just, if you don't mind me bouncing off that for a real quick second, because it is part of the list. It is part of my list.
Okay.
But while you're talking about Mystic Valor and all those team choices, I was thinking not just customizing the character, but since it's Pikachu or Eevee-centric starters, customizing your Pokemon. Now, you see stuff like this in Digimon, where you get to put like little goggles or little capes on these guys, but it'd be kind of cool if you could customize your main companion Pokemon like that, your starter, because in Pokemon Yellow, Pikachu was your starter. You do not evolve him, you could not.
Yeah.
Unless you like glitch the game in a slight way. But it would be kind of cool to do stuff like that, and that's kind of one of my hopes, is you could customize your little Pikachu or your Evee who hangs out on your shoulder with little things.
See, I was also thinking, because you're talking about customization, so like, what if it's just your outfit? So like, you get to look like your character from the app.
Exactly. Those clothes customizations are, I admit that I might have one of the few in-app purchases I make in video games is I like customizing my character. Now you can customize your character as Red from Pokemon, Red and Blue. So that's kind of neat to me. And you got like little other character stuff as well, and you get to customize as Rocket or Rainbow Rocket, which is neat by itself.
Yeah.
I like customization, and if you're doing it for a mainline, especially a Switch game, more customization is always appreciated, at least to me, because if I'm going to go through the game, I like to look. I'm a 10-year-old with a goatee. Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, it would be cool in this game if like normally, like typically, it has you play as a kid, but like with Zelda games, sometimes you play as a kid, sometimes you play as an adult. So it would be interesting if you played as an adult. I think they did something kind of like that with the Colosseum on the GameCube, Pokemon Colosseum, to where he was like an older teenager. He wasn't just a 10-year-old kid.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like he was around 16, 17, something like that. I don't know. But if you're done, Avrith, then we can go on to number 4 from Rick, or you can finish what you were saying. Sorry.
No, I was good. Customization. Right. That's the big thing. I just went off on the tangent with that.
My big thing for this is we're returning to Kanto, and I feel like I've been there so many times already. But I mean, at least from what the leaks are saying, and based off the titles of the games. I'm just hoping that it's changed enough, or they change it enough to where it's not like just going through different
the same areas
and better graphics in the same areas. I'd love the nostalgia, but I feel like Pokemon since Generation 6 came out has just been all nostalgia. That's all it's really been focused on. We're returning with older Pokemon, and then we did Sun and Moon, and we did Ruby and Sapphire as well before that. So, I mean, now we're going back to Kanto again. I don't know. It just seems a little much. I do like the aspect of it, and I really do like Kanto, and I'm a Gen 1er all the way, but I don't know. I just really hope it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
That they actually show something that's, you know, different. I'm not going and looking through the same places. That would really bug me.
So, with that in mind, I would really like it if they took the general concept of what it originally looked like, but then just completely expanded on it. Like in using Zelda again as an example, if you look at Lake Hylia from Ocarina of Time, there's it's really small. There's only one way in, one way out, unless you count well, actually no, that's a lie. You can go through the river from the Gerudo Valley. You can go to the main entrance, or you can use the Zora Warp. So I was completely wrong about that. I apologize. But for the most part, there is just that main entrance. Whereas if you look at Lake Hylia in Twilight Princess, or even Lake Hylia in Breath of the Wild, both are a lot larger than Lake Hylia in Ocarina of Time. There's more stuff added in. And then the same thing if you look at Goron City and Twilight Princess, or Twilight Princess or Breath of the Wild, and then you look at it in Ocarina of Time, it's vastly different. So you still have all of those same familiar areas with like the same maybe monuments and stuff like that. But it's a completely new, built from the ground up. It has the same name, the same locations, the same things that you would expect to find. Like if you go to like wherever place you choose, and then you remember that the gym is in the top left corner of the town. The Pokemart is in like the very center, and then the Poke Center is in the top right. And then you go there, and it's still there, but the town itself is just filled a lot more. Maybe it's like 4 or 5 times the size that it was in the original. Because in the original, it was designed specifically with the Game Boy in mind, where now they could do almost anything they want to. I don't see them making a super huge world, but I definitely see them expanding on it. If it is a return to it, then I expect it to be an actual remake as opposed to just updating the graphics. So that's the way that I see it.
Yeah, I mean there was like construction going on in like red and blue, and I think they even I think maybe it was fire red and leaf green in like Saffron City. They had like an area over to the right if you're coming down Route 5, I think. Yeah. It was either to the right or to the left or whatever, but there was like Machoke, like building.
Oh yeah,
you know, a little something or whatever. It would be cool to see that type of expansion in this game. You know, plus all the other characters to get that nostalgia from. I want it there, but I don't want it so like in your face. I don't know.
Yeah. And they could even do something like if you look at Sun and Moon and then Ultra Sun and Moon. It's basically the same area, but it looks so much different. And I think they did something similar with Black and White and Black and White 2.
On Black and White and Black and White 2, this is something I wanted to mention. Because you're saying we're returning to Kanto. I would like to go through the gym order in a very different way, rather than block first.
What if you could go... Cool. Okay, so in a lot of modern RPGs, there's tons of different types of leveling systems. So what if in this game it lets you go to whichever area you want? So like whichever gym leader you want to go to, you can choose which one to go to. But let's say the first one, no matter which one it is that you go to, is like at level 10, and then the second one is level 20, and then like it keeps going like that. So if you go to Brock first, and then he's level 10, and you can't beat him, and then you go to Misty, she's level 10 as well. So everyone is level, you know, at whatever the base level is. But then if you beat one, all of the others automatically level up with you. That way you can go in any order that you want to. You can choose where to go, and everything stays at the appropriate levels. That way, like, you don't get overpowered too quickly or stumble across a gem that's just way too hard. So similar to Breath of the Wild, like all of the enemies kind of level up with you with each of the divine beasts. Like you start out, everything's like blue and red, but then towards the end of the game, there's a lot of like silver, or in master mode, gold enemies. So it'd be like the same concept in this, to where everything levels up with you.
Well, actually, it's even more like Breath of the Wild. The leveling system for the enemies goes based off of how many enemies you kill. The divine beasts have nothing to do with it, except for in the Colosseum. The Colosseum enemies that, you know, have all the elemental weapons and everything, those level up based off of the divine beasts that you've taken out.
Okay, so
all the rest of them level up based off of how many enemies you killed or whatever.
The reason I mentioned that is because I mentioned something about the leveling system of Breath of the Wild in my review. If anyone wants to go watch it, it's the top 10 best and worst of Breath of the Wild, which Rick just happens to be in. But in that video, which has like around 1 million views, so thank you everyone that watched it, but there was a lot of comments saying that the enemies level up with the divine beasts. So yeah, there were so many like comments saying that I just thought, well, if there's so many people saying it, it must be true. So but thank you for correcting that.
Yeah, I was writing a video about it, but I ended up not doing it. This one Reddit user, I think it's Hero or something like that, did a whole thing about it and did a bunch of research on the subject. And each enemy has a different counter or whatever, but we're getting off topic.
I want to take off to that point because you mentioned something. Colosseum enemies went based off the divine beasts, but regular enemies went based off how many you killed. I like this idea for how many trainers you've beaten versus how many gym badges you've gotten.
Ooh, that would be a good idea too.
Yeah.
So you got your Elite Four is based off your badges, of course, but but all of your trainers. So there's no way you're ever like, oh my goodness, I'm way too overpowered for these trainers. Now you're just like always baseline with those trainers because those trainers are training with you.
Yeah,
They're
that way
too.
It makes it so that you can't just go into a gym and just use one Pokemon and completely wipe out everyone. It makes it so that you have to go in and have a strategy. That way, like, you can't just build up a really strong fire type, because if you go in like a water gym, and if you have like a level 60 Charizard and they have a level 20 water Pokemon, even though you're weak against them, you're likely still going, even if you use a fire attack, which is weak against water Pokemon, it's likely still going to one-hit kill that Pokemon, just because you're like 3 times whatever their level is. But if everything is leveled with you, then it makes the game more about strategy than it does just having absolute power.
Make you Nuzlockers actually work for that victory.
Yeah. So, if we're done with that, one thing that I would like to add in, and this also goes back to Pokemon Go, where, so the problem with a lot of games is someone will play through it in a week or so, beat it, and then be done. Take it back to GameStop or wherever, trade it in for another game or sell it to a friend, trade it, do whatever. But a way to get them to stay playing the game is, I think what Pokemon does now is like every month or every few months they'll release a certain rare Pokemon. So my idea is, with this game, instead of giving you all generations of Pokemon, at one time, since it is called Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Evee, it gives you maybe the first, possibly even the second generation of Pokemon. But just like in Pokemon Go, you have to wait after a few months, and then they release like Wave 2, which is Generation 2 Pokemon, and then a few months later they release Generation 3, a few months later Generation 4, or maybe it's not even a few months later, like maybe it's just once, like every month they release the new generation. That way it doesn't take like 2 years before you can get all Pokemon. But it still, like, if your favorite generation is the 4th generation of Pokemon, then if you play through the game and beat it, and you're getting ready to like trade it in or whatever, and you hear Generation 4's coming in 2 months, then you're going to be like, okay, I'll just hold on to the game. And then it completely changes the gameplay for you depending on which Pokemons which Pokemon are your favorite. Because maybe if you go to like a certain area and there's only like Pikachus or Eevees or whatever in that area, and then you go to it again, suddenly instead of just 2 or 3 different types of Pokemon, now because all of the generations have been released, now there's like 20 different types of Pokemon in that area, which again completely changes it. And then maybe you can even revisit gym leaders later on to re-challenge them, and they also have the new Pokemon. So that's basically releasing, like, the first month have it with the first generation of Pokemon, and then 2 months later release another generation, 2 more months release another generation, and it keeps players to have a reason to come back. So that's my thing that I want them to add in, because it's what they did with Pokemon Go. And as you see in Pokemon Go, a lot of people play it for a while, they lose interest,